Okay, good evening. Welcome. Welcome to people in the room. Welcome to people joining us live online. Welcome to people who will watch this when the recording of tonight's gathering is put onto the website. Whenever and however you're joining, welcome. Let me tell you what we're not doing tonight. I am not going to show you 10,000 photographs, nor am I going to describe in depth everywhere we're going. The reason for that is that I spent the last 2 weeks doing that. And so if you go on to the website, SAKLC.com, Christian Education, you'll be able to go to previous recordings or whatever the title is that gives the indication that it's a previous recording. And you'll be able to watch at your leisure the last 2 classes. Each class was about an hour and a half long, in each case just a wee bit over that. So you've got at least 3 hours of online material that does exactly what I've just said I won't do tonight. Multiple photographs of each site, pretty much in the order that it will appear in our itinerary, our travel itinerary. And each photograph will be of the site, and I engage in a lengthy explanation of each site, and there's questions and answers. You can all watch that. If you haven't been here the last 2 classes, you can watch it afresh. And if you have been here the last 2 weeks, but after tonight you want to refresh your memory about all the places we're going to go to, you can look at the previous recordings. What we will do tonight is barrel our way through a PowerPoint presentation, which I hope will answer most, if not all, of the questions you might have about the proposed pilgrimage. I said in introduction on Sunday that if you are sure you're wanting to come with us, this is the night for you. If you want to decide whether or not you're coming with us, this is the night for you. And if you know you're not coming, but really just want to know what the nuts and bolts of a pilgrimage looks like, tonight's the night for you. There will be some photographs on display tonight in the PowerPoint presentation, and I may just briefly say what they are, but I'm not going to redo the tour aspects. Okay? Lovely. I am going to share this screen. At least that's my intention. And what you should be able to see is the PowerPoint presentation. Can folks online, is your screen pretty much filled with the PowerPoint?
Yes, it is.
Lovely. Good, it works. Okay, so from now on, you folks here are just going to see this. Folks online can simply click and drag the little images of all of us and of themselves. You can drag that over to the side of your screen if it hasn't already disappeared and gotten out of your way. So, SAKLC, Holy Land Pilgrimage, you see the dates, May 28th through June 7th, 2024. That means we are over a year away from our departure. Oh, well, that was much easier on than last week. Oh, I like that. Okay. So we're a little over a year away from our departure. That's the good news. That means that we have plenty of time to get ready. The one downside to that you'll encounter in just a few minutes, but it's not an overwhelming downside. It's just the nature of the beast. And it'll be led by me. That's not to say that there isn't going to be an Israeli driver and an Israeli guide. I don't want to give the impression that I'll have a microphone round my neck while I drive the bus. No, there will be an Israeli guide and an Israeli driver. But I will be the host, and you will hear some things from me on the course of the pilgrimage. Okay, is everyone ready? Is everyone sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin. Okay, here are the 2 aspects of our pilgrimage. It's a spiritual renewal and deep learning. The deep learning part is fairly obvious, I think. Your Israeli guide, and then when we're in Bethlehem, your Palestinian guide, will impart a lot of information to you. I remember my first guide on the first pilgrimage said, you all know your scripture. What I'm going to do is give you a three-dimensional picture of your scripture. And that involves a lot of learning. I will say later, but I'll introduce it now. It would be good if you did a little bit of light reading or watch a few videos before you went, and then just be alert and pay attention and join in and participate while you're there. And you cannot but imbibe a great deal of learning in the process. Learning that you will not pick up just watching a video at home, reading a book at home, or watching a slideshow of a pilgrimage. But there will also be spiritual renewal. At each site, scripture will be read, the scripture that is appropriate to that site, that mentions that site, or the comings and goings from that site, or how that site fits into the Hebrew scriptures or to the Gospels or the book of Acts. Okay, we will pray at each site, and I will prepare ahead of time, both in electronic form and paper form, a little introduction to each site that gives you the scripture, a prayer, and maybe a couple of guided questions to meditate upon. And it won't hurt my feelings in the least if you don't use it, but it'll be there as a resource for you. Because what I don't want to do is fill every moment at every site with talking. Because I know and have personally and have witnessed others experience a great deal of spiritual renewal in simply those quiet moments after the Israeli guide has explained things, after questions and answers, and when the guide says, now walk around. And as people walk around and sit on stones that have sat there for thousands of years, or sit on benches that have been there for thousands of years, or touch mosaics, or just in the silence, scan around and imagine they're back 2,000 years ago. There is power in that. And I will not fill all that silence with the sound of me talking. And I did pass multiple groups that at every site, they worshiped a full worship service. God bless them, not us. What I'm looking for is that midpoint between a full worship service everywhere where you have no time to think or touch or meditate or reflect or pray. The midpoint between that and you folks coming back saying, well, that was great, but I could just as easily have gone with the Chamber of Commerce for that. So that middle point. Okay. Spiritual renewal and deep learning as SAKLC walks with Jesus. The middle photograph, Caesarea Maritima, that's the Pilate stone, the only thing that mentions Pilate outside of the Bible and a couple of historians. At the bottom right, Magdala, that's the synagogue at Magdala where Mary Magdalene came from, and hence the name. And then that's the Moses seat at the synagogue in Chorazin. Okay. Gate 1, that's the company that I've chosen, and I need to explain to you why. Before I do that, I guess I should point out that the olive trees are the Garden of Gethsemane. Some of the trees in that garden are 2,000 years old. Most are not. Most are very old, but one or two are 2,000 years old. And then the bottom photograph is the Mount of Olives. You can see the Church of St. Mary Magdala, which is the Russian one, the onion domed roofs, not named after Mary Magdalene, but Magdalena, the Tsar's wife, and at the bottom, the Church of the Agony, or the Church of All Nations. Okay, why Gate 1? Personal experience. My previous pilgrimages have been organized by Gate 1. To me, they're a known quantity whom I've worked with before. In fact, the organization that's taken me to the Holy Land twice so far, and will, I think, take me again in February of next year, so I'll have 2 pilgrimages next year. They've been using Gate 1 for 2 or 3 decades now, and have always had positive experiences. The only negative experiences were a couple of years that they went with someone else. And those negative experiences were guides without experience, and something that looked like a good deal financially, but by the time all was said and done, and they added all those extra items that come from Gate 1, from a quote with Gate One, it wasn't a deal anymore. Gate One organized trips elsewhere, but they started with, and their expertise and their main focus is on the Holy Land. Roberta is the representative that the other organization I've traveled with has used for a couple of decades also. She's wonderful. I've met her twice. In 2019, I met her at the Mount Zion Hotel when she came to talk to our pilgrimage group. And I met her in February of this year when she just happened to be visiting family. She's a dual national, American-Israeli, lives on the other coast of Florida. She just happened to be visiting family, knew we were getting into town that night and drove over to Tel Aviv and was waiting in the lobby of the hotel when we arrived. I like that. You know, I like that. And the quality of the guides I've alluded to. The guide that by the other organization I travel with, they've used the same guide for almost 30 years. He was the head of the Israeli guide school and is now pretty much retired except for a couple of tours a year. And he is Gate One's guide organizer in Israel. And so I'll be leaning on him when I see him in February to either have him as our guide, or if he really is serious about semi-retirement, to make sure that he really does recommend the guide that we end up getting. I also like that Gate One is inclusive, and we'll talk about that later. And by inclusive, I mean they'll give you $1 price, and there are no hidden fees, no extras. You can spend a lot extra if you want, and some of you probably will, but you can go knowing you don't have to, and I like that. Here's a little Surgeon General's health warning. I put that in largely for the benefit of people whom I share this PowerPoint with, who aren't here tonight. I've put this PowerPoint presentation together myself, and I've made a good faith effort to reflect the contract we have with Gate One in everything that's in this presentation. Good faith. In other words, when you go to register for the pilgrimage, when you go to click, yes, I agree to the terms and conditions, it behooves you, no matter how good I would do at capturing the contract, read the contract, okay? It's too much money to just click, yeah, I have read the terms and conditions. Read them. Read them as you register for the trip to make sure I've accurately reflected them, to make sure nothing's changed in the meantime, to make sure that Roberta hasn't put the wrong contract on. Read it. It's way too important for you to just do what you do with an app, which is, sure, I've read the conditions. Click, on you go. Okay? I would hope you would be mature enough and sensible enough to do that, whether I told you or not, but I tell you. Okay. This is the itinerary from 20,000 feet. We're going to see a lot of places, do a lot of things. I want you to see the big picture, because I don't want the detail we're about to jump into to overwhelm you so that you get disoriented enough that you don't see what the flow is. This is the flow. This is the pilgrimage from 20,000 feet. Most of us are going to leave together from SRQ. And Sarasota, Bradenton Airport, have direct flights to 2 places in this half of the country that have direct flights to Tel Aviv, which is where we're going. ORD, which is Chicago O'Hare, and EWR, which is Newark International. Remember I said there's a downside to us being so well organized more than a year in advance? The downside is what's the word I'm looking for? The airlines, the airplanes, the airlines, that's the word I was searching for. The airlines won't tell you how much a flight costs more than a year in advance. So all of what I'm saying is predicated on when the airlines do open the booking system, where are there good deals to be had to keep our costs reasonable? It also means that later, when I give you the cost of the pilgrimage that includes air travel, it's an estimate based on 2023 rates. Our hope is that because we're signed, sealed, and delivered so early, as soon as the airlines open the booking system, we can be right in there, getting the flights we want at a reasonable price. But I will later give you a firm price that is the cost of land only. So if you're meeting us over there, or if you want to know how much everything's going to be in a solid sort of number, you'll at least know what the land cost is. So we'll fly from SRQ to either Chicago O'Hare or Newark International. The flight will either be about 9 o'clock at night or midnight. I'm hoping it'll be the 9 o'clock one. We're leading towards that. I'll explain why in a bit. Then we'll fly overnight. It's about a 12-hour flight, 6-hour time difference. We'll fly to Tel Aviv, which is the international airport in Israel. Sorry, the airport is near Tel Aviv. It's called Ben Gurion International Airport, named after David Ben Gurion, the first Prime Minister of Israel. Then we'll either go straight to the hotel, or we'll go to visit Joppa or Jaffa. Two names, and there are more, for that one old town. Regardless of what we do, whether it's airport to Joppa or airport directly to the hotel, we're going to spend day 2 overnight at a hotel in Tel Aviv. Day 3 through 5 will be in the Galilee. So we're going to go straight from Tel Aviv, which is on the Mediterranean coast, to Galilee, so north and a little east. Day 6 through 10, we're going to be mainly in and around Jerusalem, or we'll use Jerusalem as the base to get to various places a little more to the south in Israel. Jerusalem is towards the south, and it's your home base when you go into the Judean wilderness. On day 10 and 11, we'll catch a flight close to midnight from Ben Gurion Airport and fly home overnight, likely getting back to our starting airport, starting one being Chicago or Newark, at about 6 or 7 in the morning. Okay, cool. That's the itinerary from 30,000 feet. Keep that in mind now as we dive into the nuts and bolts, because the nuts and bolts will be more understandable. The flow of the pilgrimage will be more understandable when you keep this big picture in mind. Okay, cool. Any questions so far? Yes. United, yeah, the question is United what we're looking at, United or Delta? Yes. Yeah. We're not flying El Al, and there are various reasons for that, and I can talk about that offline. The group that I travel with beyond SAKLC always use El Al, and they have another purpose in mind, a very legitimate purpose that I don't think we need to join in with. Other questions so far? Okay, day by day, your Spirit, Lord, will guide me. One of my favorite hymns. So, arrive in Israel, that's day 2, because day 1 is flying from Sarasota, Bradenton to our departure airport, getting all settled in, checked in, etc., etc., etc. And then we fly overnight. So day 1 is spent traveling to our departure airport, and then through the night into day 2 over to Israel. By the time we get there, no matter whether we leave the US at 9-ish or midnight-ish, we're going to get to Tel Aviv mid to late afternoon, into day 2. Yes.
Is it a non-stop flight?
It is. It is. The hope is non-stop flight from SRQ to our departure airport, and then a non-stop flight, whether it's Chicago or Newark, a non-stop flight straight to Tel Aviv. So if we get the earlier flight, the 9-ish flight, we'll get to Tel Aviv in time to meet our driver and our guide, to get all our bags onto the bus, and then become a little better acquainted with our guide as we start to drive. And if we get that earlier flight, we get into Tel Aviv with enough time to not go straight to the hotel, but instead to go to Joppa. Jaffa is an ancient city, but it is now a suburb of Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv, that very modern and new city, has grown down to it. Tel Aviv is a little north. They're both on the Mediterranean coast. How old is Jaffa? Well, Jonah, when he was swallowed by the whale, was spewed up somewhere, of course. There's probably a better way of saying that, but I can't think how to. He was deposited upon a beach, and the beach he was deposited upon was the beach at Joppa. That shows you how old that's been inhabited area. Also, St. Peter visited Jaffa, recorded in the book of Acts, and stayed overnight at the home of Simon the tanner. So it's an old town. But really what we'll do there is just enjoy the old city, stretch our legs, get our knees moving again, breathe some fresh air. And by the time we've wandered through the ancient streets of Jaffa, we'll come to the crest of a hill, and you'll have a lovely view up the Mediterranean, and you'll see all the high rises of downtown Tel Aviv. And that will get you oriented. Then we'll get back in the bus and go to the hotel in time for happy hour. Happy hour will consist of lovely selection of hors d'oeuvres, of Middle Eastern and Mediterranean hors d'oeuvres, and a lovely introduction, if they keep doing what they've been doing the last several years, a lovely introduction to the more budget end of Israeli wine. That's the happy hour. They'll give you samples, glasses of Israeli wine, and you can choose and have several and nibble as well. You'll end up making your way to your room, splashing water on your face, then downstairs for dinner, and then the rest of the night is your own. Either crash in your room or walk to the beach. It's a 1-minute walk from the hotel to the Mediterranean beach, or just stretch your legs. There's also a pharmacist just round the corner. If you've discovered you've left something behind, there's your opportunity. I advise not leaving something behind, because I'd rather walk to the beach than walk to a pharmacist. Okay, that's day one. If we get the late flight, the midnight-ish flight across the Atlantic, then by the time we get that 3.5 hour difference makes a big difference at the end of the day, we'll get on the bus with enough time to go directly from the airport to the hotel. Then there's time to check in, splash water on your face, have dinner, go walk around the town or go to the beach. You will miss happy hour. And then we'll do a quick trip to Jaffa first thing in the morning on our way to Galilee. Okay, that's day two. Remember, day one was flying across the Atlantic. Day two, we're heading towards Galilee from the Mediterranean coast by Tel Aviv. We will visit Caesarea Maritima and the aqueduct that's there. Remember, lots of photos and deep explanations of all these sites are available online, the recordings of the last 2 weeks' classes. Then we'll go up to Mount Carmel, where the Carmelite order was established and named. It's also where Elijah defeated the priests of Baal when they said, "Our God's better than your God," and he said, "No, he isn't," or "No, they aren't." And the prophet called down fire that wiped out the prophets of Baal. Wonderful view from there. Then we'll go to Tel Megiddo. Tel meaning mountain of Megiddo. Another ancient name for mountain or hill instead of Tel is Har. So this is Har Megiddo, or as we know it better, Armageddon. Har Megiddo, Tel Megiddo, the hill of Megiddo, Armageddon. The battle at the last days happens in the plain by Tel Megiddo. Then to Mount Tabor, which is the Mount of Transfiguration. It's the mountain upon which Jesus was transfigured before the disciples. Then we will go to the Sea of Galilee and to our hotel. We'll check into our hotel on the Sea of Galilee We'll be there for 3 nights. So don't unpack in Tel Aviv, because you're only there 1 night. But carefully pack so your stuff for the next day is on top, along with your toiletries. And that'll make it easy to get out of the hotel the next morning. Whether you want to unpack for 3 nights is up to you, but at least it's 3 nights. And we are on the Sea of Galilee. I got a really good offer of another hotel near the Sea of Galilee. It had all sorts of deals going. It was quite a spa resort. But to get to the Sea of Galilee from it, you climbed up onto a footbridge and walked over a highway to the other side of the footbridge and then down and then over. And I want us to be on the Sea of Galilee. Many of us, this will be the only chance to spend 3 days on the Sea of Galilee. And by George, we're not going to schlep over a footbridge. This is not a quest. This is a pilgrimage. We're going to be on the Sea of Galilee. So you can grab your Coca-Cola or your 12-year-old Glenlivet. If you're going to have the 12-year-old Glenlivet, please take me with you. Or your glass of wine, and you can just walk to the edge of the Sea of Galilee. That's what I want to do. That's what I want you to have the opportunity to do. We're there for 3 nights. And I'll be showing you the hotels in a minute. Day 4, we're still in the Galilee. Remember, there was that little 30,000 feet. The Sea of Galilee, day 3, 4, 5. On day 4, we'll take a boat ride across the Sea of Galilee. There is a photograph later of that. Then we'll go visit the ancient boat at Nof Gnosar. Nof Gnosar is where I stay each time I go over. It's a kibbutz. But it's pretty nice, but it's not what I think we'd all want when we can be somewhere nicer. And the hotel on the Sea of Galilee is in Tiberias. The Tiberias we read about in the Gospels and the Book of Acts. But at Nof Gnosar, there is an ancient boat that was discovered, buried in the Sea of Galilee. They call it the Jesus boat. There's no evidence Jesus sailed in it, but it is a boat from the time of Jesus. We'll go see it. Then we're going to go up the Mount of the Beatitudes, the mountain upon which Jesus stood to give the Sermon on the Mount, in which he delivered the Beatitudes. Blessed are, blessed are, blessed are, etc. Then to Chorazin, which is one of my favorite stops. It's a small place, but it's nice. Its claim to fame is it was a town that Jesus cursed. There weren't many of them. There's a few, and this is one of them. And we get to be in the synagogue at Chorazin. Then we're going to have lunch. We'll talk about food later, but I put that in because you can have anything you want for lunch as long as it's fish. Because we're in Tiberias, and you will eat Peter fish. The question is, will it be smiling at you when you eat it, or is it going to be filleted and lightly battered and fried? It's tilapia. Okay. I'm sure we can find something else if you really need it. But that's a pricey lunch, the fish, and it's really a thing to do. It's one of the things to do when you're on the Sea of Galilee, to eat Peter fish. Okay. Then we'll go to Capernaum, which was Jesus' home base for quite a while, and is also where Peter's house, Peter's mother-in-law's house is. If you remember, she was raised from the dead, and that house is there in Capernaum. Capernaum, I mean, Google it, and you'll see just how many scriptural references there are to Capernaum. And then on to there's also a very fine synagogue from the time of Jesus at Capernaum. And then off to Magdala, where Mary Magdalene, Mary of Magdala, comes from. And one beautiful Catholic church there, which you will love. And but its claim to fame is that they discovered when a priest in the 2000s, early 2000s, wanted to build a guest house. As they were digging the foundations, the priest found the ruins of the synagogue at Magdala from the time of Mary Magdalene. So that turned into an archaeological site. The guest house moved somewhere else, and in gratitude, the Israeli government allowed the Catholics to build a church nearby. Day 5, so we're back and forth to the hotel on the Sea of Galilee overnight. Day 5, Tel Dan, Caesarea Philippi and the Golan Heights. These are up in the north. I haven't been there before. They're not on my normal tour. Tel Dan has lots of claim to fame. not the least of which is that Abraham chased or followed or pursued the folks who were after Lot through Tel Dan. Caesarea Philippi, we hear a lot about in the Gospels, and the Golan Heights give you a chance to look to Galilee from Syria. It's not Syria anymore. It's currently occupied by Israel. Once you get to the top, you will understand why it's occupied by Israel, because you'll look down and say, wow, there's our hotel over there. Wow, there's the kibbutz Pastor Ken stays in. Yikes, I could hit that with a World War II artillery piece. Yes, that thought occurred to Israel as well. And that's why Israel occupies the Golan Heights. It used to be Syrian. The Israeli side, the Jordan, the Sea of Galilee side is Israel. The top is Israel. The other side is Syria. So we'll go up and see the Galilee and the Sea of Galilee from what is, at least at the moment under international law, Syria, but currently occupied by Israel. It'll give you a whole fresh vantage point. Day 6, you'll be packing up and we'll be loading the suitcases onto the bus, because we're not done in Galilee, but we're not coming back to that hotel. Instead, at the end of day 6, we'll be checking into our hotel in Jerusalem for the remainder of our pilgrimage. On the way from Galilee to Jerusalem, we stop at Cana, which in at least one of the Gospels, John's, is where Jesus performed his first miracle at the wedding feast, when he turned water into wine. I am not Jesus. Do not get your hopes up. You will have to buy your own wine. And then we'll go to Nazareth. And while in Nazareth, we'll see the Church of the Synagogue and the Church of the Annunciation. Church of the Annunciation, the site upon which the angel Gabriel appeared to Mary to announce that she was with child. Sorry, guys, I know you've heard this before, but I'm going to do it again. Every time you hear someone sing, Mary, did you know? I want all of you to shout, yes, she knew, the angel told her. Thank you. If you want to be particularly catty about it, you can say, the angel told her. We have a whole feast day given over to the event. It's called the Feast of the Annunciation. And then you can add, and I've been to the Church of the Annunciation. Yes, Mary knew. And then to Bet Shean, which is a beautifully preserved ruins, is actually, don't tell anyone else that, is my favorite site of the whole, I mean, outside the old city of Jerusalem, it's my favorite site. You'll love it. And many good photographs of that appeared last week. Then on to Jerusalem. We'll go to the Overlook, if at all possible, where you've got a nice panoramic look of the city from a height, and there'll be an official welcome there. And then we'll check into the hotel in Jerusalem for 5 nights. That may be the point you want to unpack. It'll certainly be the point, and I'll get to that about packing, it'll certainly be the point you want to take stock to figure out if you've brought enough clothes, and if you haven't, then to figure out what you want to pony up the money to have the hotel launder for you. That'll be the time. Okay. Let me just pause there while we've got that on the screen. Any questions about day 2 through 6? Okay. Day 7, Jerusalem and Bethlehem. We'll go up to Mount Zion. Mount Zion is no longer within the walls of the old city. It was at the time of Jesus. Remember that I told you the other week, the walls currently around Jerusalem were built in the 16th century by Suleiman the Magnificent. His engineers messed up royally several times in trying to figure out where the ancient walls were. And one of the things they did was not to include Mount Zion. And thereby, I think someone said, left out like a quarter of the old city by accident. So we're going to Mount Zion. Don't make me sing the hymn. Okay, we're marching to Zion. At Mount Zion, we'll see the upper room, in which tradition says the Last Supper was shared, last Passover celebrated. We'll also see the Tomb of David, and we'll see Dormition Abbey. Those of you who may be recovering Roman Catholics will know that along with Elijah, Mary, the Blessed Virgin, Mary, the mother of Jesus, Mary, the mother of God, did not die. Elijah was taken bodily up to heaven, and tradition says that Mary, the mother of God, the mother of Jesus, was also taken up bodily to heaven after she fell asleep. Dormition. This is the church of the site of her house in Jerusalem where she fell asleep and then was taken up to heaven. Okay, those three sites are on Mount Zion. Then we're going to see the church of St. Peter Gallicantu. Gallicantu is a Latin phrase for cockcrow. This is the site to which Peter stood when he denied ever knowing Jesus. And yes, as long as Peter really did do that, that's the site of it. If you're interested in knowing why we say that and why I 100% agree with that, watch last week's video. But it will be a place that changes your life. Trust me, St. Peter Gallicantu is going to be a major piece of your pilgrimage, not time-wise, but profundity-wise. Okay. And by St. Peter Gallicantu, you'll see the ancient steps from the upper city of the old city of Jerusalem, from like the Temple Mount part of Jerusalem, down into the Kidron Valley. These are the steps Jesus walked on, because that's the route from the temple precinct and that part of the old city down the slope into the Kidron Valley, right by the traditional path up from the Kidron Valley up the Mount of Olives. They've been dated. They're from their second temple period. That means Jesus' time. He was around at the time of the Herodian temple, the second temple, not Solomon's temple. That's the first time. The Herodian temple. They're steps from the second temple period. If Jesus ever walked from the old city to the Kidron Valley and up to the Mount of Olives, those are the steps he walked on. Then we're going to go to Bethlehem. We will drop off our Israeli guide because the Israeli guide cannot enter into Bethlehem because Bethlehem is in the Palestinian territory. Okay, it's in the West Bank. We will go through various checkpoints. We will drop our Israeli guide and we will pick up a Palestinian Christian guide. And that will be a highlight of your trip. You will be sorry to see the Israeli guide go because we fall in love with our guides pretty quickly. And each time I've gone, it was the same Palestinian guide. I do tell this story for the sake of people that won't watch the whole 3 or 4 hours. All the Palestinian Christians speak multiple languages. Arabic is their native tongue. So they will worship, they will cry out Allah Akbar during worship because Allah is just Arabic for God and Allah Akbar is God be praised. And so, you know, Christians, Palestinian Christians, just warn you, American ears, that sounds very different. She is Roman Catholic. Her home congregation is Church of the Nativity in Bethlehem. So she speaks Arabic and Hebrew and English, obviously. It's the lingua franca. But most Palestinian Christians, educated Palestinian Christians, have a fourth language. And the fourth language tells you where they went to school. Her fourth language is French. She's Roman Catholic and was educated by French. Hold on a second. She was educated by French brothers. She gave the game away about which school her 2 boys go to. She's got 2 little kids, some much older kids too, 2 little kids. We asked her what language, what's their fourth language? She said German. To which I said, they go to the Lutheran school, don't they? She says, yeah. Okay, so you'll love her. Her family's been Christian since shortly after Jesus rose from the grave. That's a great connection. We'll see Church of the Nativity, which speaks for itself. The church in the grotto beneath it, the traditional site of Jesus' birth. You'll see a photograph of that. And the shepherds' fields. The shepherds watched their flocks by night and then put them in caves. The caves around Bethlehem are where shepherds kept watch over flocks. And those caves, most of the major ones now have altars in them, and they're churches of the Roman Catholic or the Orthodox faith. So we'll go to the shepherds' fields. Next day, we'll go to Jerusalem, dedicated to Jerusalem. We'll enter the old city via the Dung Gate, the gate that the Israeli paratroopers were ordered not to liberate Jerusalem via. Their commanding general said, "We are liberating Jerusalem. We will be remembered for all eternity. We are not liberating Jerusalem through the dung gate. Tomorrow we'll liberate through one of the other gates," and they did. We'll also see the Western Wall, the Wailing Wall, that retaining wall. That's all that's left of the Second Temple. And it's only there still because it's only a retaining wall. The Romans didn't destroy it. That's the Wailing Wall, where you can write prayers, roll them up, stick them in the cracks. Jewish rabbis take all those notes once or twice a year and bury them in the Mount of Olives. So your prayers go to God in both ways, by being in the temple wall and then by being buried on Mount of Olives. When we're on the Temple Mount, we'll see the Dome of the Rock, that big gold-colored dome. That's not a mosque, it's a shrine. That's where Muhammad allegedly landed and took off from on the night flight in the arms of the angel from Mecca to Jerusalem. The Alaska Mosque is there. We won't go in, but we'll be by it. That is a mosque. That's the black domed building on the Temple Mount. We'll see St. Stephen's Gate, which is also called the Lion's Gate. We'll visit St. Anne's Church and Bethesda Pools. That's where Jesus healed the man who was so sick he couldn't get into the bubbling waters when they started to bubble and had no friends or family to carry him. And he appealed to Jesus, and Jesus said, "You don't need to go in the pool, stand and walk." Then we'll go on the Via Dolorosa, the station, the Way of Sorrow, and the Stations of the Cross. We'll visit the Jewish Quarter and Cardo. Cardo is the ancient Jewish market. Cardo was simply the main market street that ran, I think, east to west in most Roman cities. And the Cardo in the old city of Jerusalem is the remains of, and now modern little boutique stores that are part of an ancient marketplace through the Jewish Quarter in the old city of Jerusalem. And then we'll go into the Rabbi's Tunnel, which are the tunnels that were used by the rabbis to access the temple at the time of Jesus. Then on day 9, we'll go into the Judean wilderness. We'll visit Masada, the last stand of 900 plus Jews in the first Jewish-Roman war, the one that led to the destruction of the temple in AD 70. We'll go to Qumran, which, if it sounds familiar, is because that's where the Dead Sea Scrolls were found, in caves behind Qumran. And it's also the site of the Essene community that some people believe John the Baptist belonged to. And then we'll go either swim or float in the Dead Sea. Day 10, Jerusalem and the Mount of Olives. We'll visit Mount Herzl, where Herzl, whose first name just escapes me for the time being, the father of Zionism, he's buried on Mount Herzl. It's named after him. So are many of the Israeli war dead and former Israeli prime ministers and presidents. Many of them are buried at Mount Herzl. We'll visit Yad Vashem, the Holocaust Memorial. We'll visit the Israeli Museum and the model of Jerusalem, the incredible scale model of Jerusalem. Just take your breath away. We'll visit the Shrine of the Book, a shrine dedicated to the Dead Sea Scrolls. And you'll see other things unrelated to the Dead Sea Scrolls, like the Aleppo manuscript, the Aleppo Bible, which is one of the oldest, almost complete Hebrew Bibles that was smuggled out of Aleppo in Syria as the state of Israel was being declared. Some of the pages are burned away, but we're just glad it survived. You'll also visit the Mount of Olives, and there we'll see the Ascension Chapel, where Jesus ascended to heaven, the Paternoster Church dedicated to Jesus sharing the Lord's Prayer, the Paternoster. We'll walk the Palm Sunday route. We'll touch Dominus Flevit, Jesus wept, a traditional site of Jesus weeping over Jerusalem. We'll visit the Garden of Gethsemane, and our plan is to celebrate Holy Communion together in the Garden of Gethsemane. And then we'll end with the Church of All Nations, the Church of the Agony, that big church that was at the bottom of the photograph I showed you earlier. That's day 10. That's the day we leave to come home. That'll take us most of the day. We have your hotel room booked overnight, even though you're not going to be there. In fact, because hotels in Jerusalem want to make money, we have you booked overnight. We've even paid for your breakfast the next morning. You won't be there. It's what you've got to do to secure the room overnight. Why do we want to secure the room overnight if you're not going to sleep there? Why are we paying for your breakfast that you won't eat? Well, I'm glad you asked. It's because once we've left the Mount of Olives at the bottom by the Garden of Gethsemane, at the Church of All Nations, Church of the Agony, we will drive back to the hotel. And your room will still be there. And you'll be able to go into your room, get out of the clothes you've been in all day, have a shower, get into your clean clothes that you'll fly home in, do your last minute packing, maybe send some emails or FaceTime with family, and then make your way down and have a leisurely dinner in the hotel dining room before later in the evening we head to the airport and start coming home. You can imagine what the alternative is. The clothes that you left the hotel in that morning, you're flying home in at midnight that night. You know, you've got to pack up your cases first thing in the morning and they're all down by the front desk for your 11 o'clock checkout. No, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. The cost includes that extra night you won't use, but that means you can shower and change your clothes, catch up with family, eat dinner, and then leave for the hotel. It's very civilized. And the other way is a crazy way to save a buck. Okay. Questions on day 7 through 10, 11. We'll get to the airport mid-evening. We'll fly out on a near midnight flight. It will get you, as I said earlier tonight, it will get you back to our departure airport, not home or airport, but departure airport. It will get you back there about 6 in the morning, 6 or 7 in the morning. Yes. We don't know that we're leaving from Chicago. We're maybe Newark. I prefer Newark. I would have to be convinced that there's a great advantage to Chicago. I just put it in there in the interest of advertising. You'll be coming back either with us, or if you've made your own flight arrangements, you'll be coming back whenever your flight whatever flight arrangements you've made. One possibility, I'll say it now because it's come up in the conversation. You can book the trip land only and make all of your own flight arrangements. I would advise you making separate flight arrangements through Gate 1. Yes, they make a few more bucks. That's not the reason I'm suggesting it. I'm suggesting it because, God forbid, anything goes wrong with your first flight. You're not juggling airlines or travel agents. You're a single call to Gate 1. At that point, they're going to know you're delayed. At that point, they're working out how they get you there. And God forbid they don't get you there, they're busy booking you on the next flight to Israel. So you don't have to go through Gate 1, but you'll be able to, if you're not flying with us, you'll be able to make those arrangements separately through Gate 1, and they'll know you're with us. And just for me, to me, that's a less sleep I'd lose if I know it's a one call, both coming and going, and allow Gate 1 to earn their money and run interference for you without you having to call your own travel agent or your own airline, which may or may not be the one that takes you over to Israel. Yeah, I would go through Gate 1, but it's a possibility. Okay. Any more questions on day 7 through 11? Okay. Oh, yes. Fred. Which, the tomb. The question is, was the tomb mentioned? I made an executive decision. You will visit the tomb because it's part of the last 4 stations of the cross are in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. So when we do the stations of the cross, we will end in Church of the Holy Sepulchre, on which site is Golgotha, the tomb, the point where the 3 Marys watched Jesus die, and also the slab on which tradition says he was laid to be prepared for burial. There is another site that claims to be the tomb. It was discovered by General Gordon. I don't know if you remember the Charlton Heston movie from the 60s, when he played Gordon of Khartoum. Yet another movie where Charlton Heston dies at the end. Sorry, spoiler alert. Gordon was an eccentric British general who died in Khartoum, hence Gordon of Khartoum. He discovered this site and was really out beyond the city walls, where he's pretty much convinced that was the site. I don't want to take people there because it is a lovely garden. It has been gardenified, and it's got a splendid tomb, astoundingly beautiful tomb. Problem is, it's a 2nd century tomb. So unless we're out in our dating of Jesus' life by over 100 years, it's not his tomb, no matter how much Anglicans would like to believe that garden tomb is Jesus' tomb. And the reason I was persuaded not to go there was, instead of going there, we can go to the rabbis' tunnels and see the tunnels the rabbis took for the shortcut to get into the temple. And I thought that would be better than taking you somewhere that we all know is false. Okay, great question. Okay, accommodations. We are going to stay the one night in Tel Aviv at Tal by the beach. It was remodeled 5-6 years ago. It gives you a little sense that it's very modern and clean, and very attractive if you like modern, and I think it's modern done well. From the rooftop, you can see the Mediterranean because you're just a minute's walk from the beach. There you see the dining room. There you see the hotel. It's a very small footprint. And there you see the beach. As I said, Tel Aviv is on the coast of the Mediterranean. Some Israelis talk about you go to Jerusalem to pray and you go to Tel Aviv to play. We're there, remember, because it's close to Ben Gurion International Airport, and it means you're not stuck on a coach ride for 2 hours after a 12-hour flight. Okay. So that's Tal by the beach. And you can just Google these places and go onto their websites and see everything. Oh, by the way, reason I haven't put a photograph of the rooms up, I don't know exactly what room you're going to get, and I don't want to show you a room and you get a room that's not quite as nice as that, and you say, oh, Ken, you said I'd be in this, room with a jacuzzi, No, I think just giving you a sample of the hotel is enough. And I don't want to give you anything I know I can't deliver. The 3 nights were on the Sea of Galilee. There's the Guy Beach Hotel in Tiberias. If you look at the left, there is the hotel. And as promised, you walk right up to the Sea of Galilee. No bypass to schlep over. Nice pool, nice lounging area, nice dining room. Not that I'm ever going to see the inside of it, but nice gym and exercise room. So we'll be there multiple nights. And we'll be back in time for you to enjoy the hotels or walk into town. Really, the day, we're normally on the bus by about 8:30. We're at a site by about 9, a little later if it's far away. And because we don't break into these sites, they're opened by the Catholic Church or by the Israeli Tourist Authority. They open at 9 and close at 5, or 4 or 4:30. And then we get back to the hotel and the rest of the day is your own. So when you see a nice hotel, no, we're not getting back at 10:30 at night and you're going straight to your room. You can enjoy the resort. And in Jerusalem, we're going to the Grand Court. And there it is on the left, the Grand Court on a grand corner in Jerusalem, at 15 minutes walk from the Damascus Gate. So you don't have to, you can Uber. No, there is no Uber in Israel, but your Uber app connects you to local taxis. And they just organize themselves like their Uber. You can get your points. You can see who the driver is with a normal Uber experience, but it's a licensed taxi that shows up. So yeah, you get a 15-minute walk, or take an Uber to the old city. Another pool with a view, and then the other one, that middle picture, other side of the pool, that's quite a view from your pool. More delicious food. And then in the middle, because it's on a corner, you've got a lovely quiet oasis where you can relax in the evening. Questions about the hotel? Okay. What's the weather like? I'm going to show you 4 images. There's 2 there. There's 2 on the next slide. We're going at the end of May, start of June. So if you want an approximate answer to your question, find that May, June, and there's a line between them, and just follow that line up. Okay, that's the cheating way to do it. The green line is Jerusalem, the purple line is Sarasota. There you see the average high and low for that time of the year. So May, June, the high is going to be in the low 80s, whereas here it's going to be in the 90s. Okay, give or take. We're talking averages. It's going to be warm. The good news is there's not going to be any rain. Look at the rainfall pattern. Just as Sarasota is hitting its stride, Jerusalem has got down to practically zero. Okay, so May is a really good month to visit. June is getting a little warmer. We're going May, June because the schools are off. So if there's any of you that have any duty with kids, grandkids, you're free to travel because the Sarasota schools will come off just a day or two after we leave. So a little warmer than I would have chosen, but it's going to be nothing compared to, I mean, we're Sarasotans. And look at the next bit. Never mind the clear skies. Look at that in a minute. Look at the humidity.
Yeah.
May, June, take that line up there.
Nice.
It's starting to get very humid over here. It's dry as a stick in Jerusalem. Now, admittedly, on the coast in Tel Aviv, different, but we're there one night. There isn't a cold day at the top of Masada in the Judean wilderness. Judean wilderness, it's kind of built in there. I was there in February, and it was probably 75 degrees on the top of Masada. We're not there for hours. You saw the enormous cable car that takes us up, holds like 60 or 70 people each time. That's air conditioned. The coach is air conditioned. Well, you may just have to suck it up a little bit on top of Masada, but you'd have to do that in February. Okay, and then clear skies. Those are the. This is the chance of clear skies. May, June, almost 100% chance of clear skies in Jerusalem. Little chance. It's the rainy season in Sarasota. That will help you decide what to pack. You don't need Arctic gear. You don't need many sweaters. That's going to free up a tremendous amount of space in your suitcase. Question about weather. Okay, what does the package include? And I know this makes it look like we're getting down to the fine print, but I'm sorry, I needed to squeeze this in. But remember, as long as you've got PowerPoint on your computer at home, I'm sending this to you later. And you'll see all this on the web, on the registration page of Gate 1. Round-trip flights from Sarasota to Tel Aviv aboard United Airlines or Delta is based on 2023 tariffs. The final cost is subject to 2024 tariffs. We'll know by the time we get to the end of May and into June, certainly by the middle of June, we'll know exactly what the prices are. Our hope is that if they've gone up, us booking early will lock us in. And we've got a little squidgy bit in the costs anywho. Any airline fuel surcharges, we're not going to get a nasty surprise. They're baked in. 9 nights accommodation, 1 in Tel Aviv, 3 in Tiberias, 5 in Jerusalem. The cost will cover 26 meals. It's 9 breakfasts, 8 lunch, 9 dinner. Let me pause there. Just because you've already paid for it doesn't mean you have to eat it. Now, I hope you'll stick with our menu at lunchtime, because one of the advantages of it, we're on the road, we're trying to see as much as we can. When you get to the restaurant, it'll be family style. By the time your drupa hits that chair, they're going to be coming out and asking for drinks, which are extra. And they're going to, other than, you know, the water, and they're going to be putting platter after platter, family style, down in front of you. It'll be Mediterranean, Middle Eastern food. A lot of pita bread, meats, spicy and otherwise. Ubiquitous fries. French fries are part of Mediterranean, Middle Eastern food now. And platter after platter will arrive and you'll eat and enjoy yourself. And most times, mysteriously, fresh platters will arrive. That has the advantage of us getting in there and out of there, fed, watered, and restroomed in 45 minutes or an hour or less. Okay. So if you start ordering strange a la carte stuff, you're going to be the only people in the restaurant and it may delay us. So I hope you don't order a la carte for lunch. Breakfast, you won't have to because every hotel has an enormous smorgasbord of food, morning, noon, and night. At night, though, the food at the hotel is going to be great. But if you really want to treat yourself and go into town and have a nice meal, knock yourself out. Just know that it's the hotel meal's covered, but to you, it's mixed in with the overall cost. So you probably won't cry into your vodka martini if you go out and find a nice hotel, a nice restaurant. God bless you. Do it with my blessing. In February, what was it? What happens in February? What big sporting event? Is it the Super Bowl? Yeah. So some of the guys discovered that round the corner from the hotel in Jerusalem, there was a bar that was hosting a Super Bowl party. Pay 30 or 40 bucks to get in, and it's unlimited beer and pizza for the rest of the night. What's not to like? And they were Americans, they were treated like royalty, and so yeah, I mean, just in the evenings, unless there's some program involved, and there may be one, I'd like very much for you to all to meet one night in Jerusalem, the pastor of the Arabic speaking congregation at Church of the Redeemer in the old city of Jerusalem. Wonderful church built by the Kaiser, well, Kaiser's money, and he was there for the dedication, Kaiser Wilhelm. Lovely old church, stone's throw from Church of the Holy Sepulchre, imperial German eagles on the outside of the wall, and he's the pastor of the Arabic congregation in Jerusalem. I would love him to come to the hotel and talk to you. Okay, but otherwise, your nights are your own, to do with what you wish, and that may include taking a break from the hotel food, good though it is, and just having a nice night out. Or by that time, you might want to get away from each other. I mean, spouses, I don't mean that. I mean, you might want to get away from the rest of us. Okay, I mean, you might want to get away from me. Okay, take Amy. Amy will want to go with you. She'll be a refugee by that time. Okay, so 26 meals. Sightseeing per the itinerary in a modern air-conditioned motor coach. Those ones, European ones you see with enormous wing mirrors that you can't imagine how they can get up a street. Most of them also have Wi-Fi on board. They all have chilled water, and you get 2 bottles a day. And to be honest, the bus driver makes some money. He's always got extra and normally just sells it at $1 a bottle. If you're not taking your own and filling it up, what's a buck? Bus driver makes some money. It's not like those tourist destinations where you're paying $5 for a bottle, but you're entitled to 2, and that's usually in a chilled container in the front of the bus. As you get off, just grab one. The arrival and departure transfer, we want to get you to and from the airport. The services of an English-speaking tour escort manager from arrival to return. Their tour rep will actually pick us up in the depth of the airport before we're fully through everything, just to help us get through. Use of a whisper hearing device, a little device, receiver. You have a lanyard, you put it around your neck, you plug in the almost like airplane earbuds that you get brand new, you're not using someone else's. Put the buds in, and our tour guide, when we're in quiet places where he can't talk loud, he whispers into it, and you hear it, the earbuds. He also uses it in noisy places where you won't hear him. So it's a whisper, even if he might be shouting into it. And that way you always hear what's going on. Men, for the love of Pete, take out your earbuds when you go into the men's room. It is incredibly disconcerting the first time you're at the urinal and you hear a man speak into your ear. Not quite as disconcerting as the poor guy that's standing next to you when you spin around to find out where that person's whispering into your ear. And ladies too, you don't want to be sitting there and suddenly hear a man's voice, literally in your ear. So take the earbuds out when you go to the restrooms, but they're worth their weight in gold. And there is a suggestion at the end of this presentation. You might, if you've got a pair of wired earbuds, not wireless, wired, take them with you. Because as I said, the earpieces you get are disposable. They don't recycle those earbuds. They're like the ones you get on the airplane. If airplane disposable earbuds are fine in your ear, great, don't bother taking your own. But if, like me, you like them to be in your ear and comfortable, if they're in there for a chunk of the day, it wouldn't be a bad idea to take a pair of your own wired earbuds with you. 2 bottles of water per person per day while touring. Portage of 1 piece per person on arrival and departure at each hotel. Do not take your cases up in the elevator with you. There may be 30 odd of us. You get 10 people in an elevator. If you got your suitcases, it's down to 4 people. It'll take us forever to get to our rooms. The tip is covered. That's what that means. You've already tipped the bellboys that you're now doing the job for. So don't take the cases up to your room. Just take your medical device and your backpack, whatever you've taken on the bus with you. Don't schlep it up. All you'll do is slow everyone down. It'll take an hour to get up the elevators, and you've already paid the bellboys. You know, tips for the guide, the driver, and the hotel staff are already included. Trust me on this. Unless we have a lousy guide, you're going to want to tip them more. And I'll collect that and make a big fuss and give it to him at the end of the tour if I get the whisper from you guys that, hey, this guy's really good. I don't know what we've paid him through gate 1, but we should give him more. Don't be embarrassed if you can't. Don't be embarrassed if you don't want to. And if the general feeling is this has been not what we'd hoped, we're not going to tip him any more at all. But just know that the tips are included. Local guides as required. Ours are required. We need a local guide to go into Bethlehem with us. It's the Palestinian territory. And then entrance fees for everywhere we're going in. See what I mean? You just need, if you're doing the all-inclusive with us, if you're including the air, that amount you pay, that's everything. Unless you want to buy beer and wine, unless you want to have drinks with your meals, unless you want to go out at night, unless you want to buy souvenirs, unless you want to tip extra the driver and the guide. Those things, those will be extra if you want to do extra. When we go to Yard and Eat, the site in the River Jordan where we can renew our baptism, I can't remember saying that, but it was on one of the slides. I must have skipped over it. The entrance to Yard and Eat is already covered, but if you want to go in the water, $10, at least that's what it was in February, $10 gets you a towel, a big white baptismal robe to wear, and access to the changing room and the hot shower. So if you want to just come in to the Jordan site and take a water bottle and take some Jordan water, you're already bought and paid for, you're in. But if you want to go in, $10 isn't much to get a towel, a robe, and a hot shower. Also at Bethlehem, we'll all line up as a tour group and get our photos taken with the Church of the Nativity behind us. And I had the dickens of a job trying to explain to the photographer why I didn't want the American flag superimposed onto my photograph. He says, I put the Scottish flag. I'm going, no, because I know you're going to mix it up with the English one, and I'm not going to have the English flag on my pilgrimage photograph. But you'll get the photograph, $10. Nice photograph about yay size in a presentation thing of the whole tour group. If you don't want to, I mean, get your photo taken so that everyone else that's with you remembers who was with them. But if you don't want to buy that, no biggie, don't buy it. You know, but that's about $10. All inclusive means all inclusive. Questions about the package includes? Yes.
Other than a visa, settled documents.
You do not need a visa to get into Israel. You also don't need any shots. Just your passport. And as with all international travel, make sure that your passport has at least 6 months left on it. And Brits have to be even more careful going into Europe, but you're not a Brit, you're not going into Europe, but 6 months on your passport.
Okay, credit cards is yes, and you were dollars.
They love dollars. You might get change back in shekels.
Oh,
There are places where you can just say, no, I want it back in dollars, please. But they will habitually give you change back in shekels, but everywhere takes credit cards. And except for street vendors, and my advice is, especially, don't stop at street vendors. You're going to have to haggle for half an hour, and meanwhile, you've lost the rest of the group. So stick with stores, and I'll go into this more in a deep dive when we've all signed up and we're doing the pre-departure. But if it's over $100 or whatever, they will give you a VAT, value-added tax receipt, and you get that tax back at the airport before you fly out. But credit cards, that's the way to go. And dollars in cash. Take a bunch of dollar bills, because there are some of the sites, especially the ones that are run by the Roman Catholic Church, where you have to pay to get into the restroom. And it'll be 50 shekels, but you're just going to throw them $1 and be glad. Or if you're particularly Scottish about it, you're going to grab a travel buddy and throw the $1 and say that's for both of us. Just careful how you do that. That's a bad sign you're sending. But what I'm saying is, a couple of you go and just put $1 down and off you go. And to be honest, those are for the attendants. Most of the bathrooms have attendants. There's little bathrooms as you come down in the Mount of Olives, just by the Garden of Gethsemane. Tiny little bathrooms, but there's a guy there keeping them clean. And that's what you're paying for. It's less the upkeep, as you'll discover, and more the attendant. So don't have like $200 in dollar bills, but take a bunch of dollar bills with you. And we'll go over that more in depth in the pre-trip briefing. There was another hand that was going up. Yes, Gil. You can check one bag. In all likelihood, we'll check which airline it is, but it's normally £50 in that bag. Now, remember, if you're going to buy keepsakes or gifts, keep it under £50 because you're going to add those gifts. And we'll be taking, you can bring your own, but I'll bring a few travel scales and you can weigh your cases, because they will get you. They'll say, take some. El Al invited me to take something out of my case because I was 1.1 pound over. Incidentally, Walmart water shoes weigh 1.3 pounds. I know that because I took them out and put it in my backpack, because they take up no space in the backpack, and I was that amount below the 50 pounds. Your backpack, at least with El Al, I don't know what it'll be with the airline we go, that can't be more than 17 pounds. Yes, El Al will weigh it. I don't know if Delta and United will. You can also take a carry-on to fit in overhead, and you could take one small item like a purse or a laptop bag. If you have medical equipment, if you need a CPAP machine, that's not counted as part of your of anything that you're taking on the plane. It's not counted as part of your weight, not counted as your number of items. Just make sure it's clearly marked medical device and have a note from your doctor in there that says it's a medical necessity. The same goes for anyone that's carrying sharps. You know, if you're taking insulin with you, or any kind of medication that might raise the suspicion of immigration, have a letter from your doctor saying it's a medical necessity. Other questions? Don't overload yourself. Admittedly, the cases get taken down for you and thrown onto the bus for you, but still, it's, you know, if you're close to 50, that's a lot of weight to be thrown around. Okay, cost. The land cost is $3,399. That is fixed. That's signed, sealed, delivered. That's the cost of everything I described, but not the flights over there. The land and air cost, again, with that asterisk, an estimate based on 2023 tariffs, $4,949 per person. That's everything I described, plus your airfare from Sarasota to Israel and back again. We don't know what that number will do, but our hope is it'll be pretty close to that number. When I say we don't know what that number will do, that number is the land and air one, because we're so well organized. We're signed, sealed, and delivered over a year in advance. Plenty of time for you to squirrel money aside to pay for this and to prepare yourself for it. But we organized too soon for the airlines. Okay, questions?
The single supplement, you have your own.
Single supplement is $1,300. If you want to go by yourself and you don't want to be paired up with someone else, it's that amount plus $1,300. If you're going by yourself, but you want to pay that other number that everyone else is paying, we'll matchmake for you. We'll figure out who else is going by themselves. We'll help pair you up, and then you'll be at the 3,399 or the 4,949. The 1,300 is only if there's no one we can find to go with you, and only if you actually choose. The photograph at the top there is the church, the synagogue in Capernaum. The photograph below, I think I've lost track now. It may be Mount Tabor. If it's not Mount Tabor, it's oh, good grief. What's the one? Mount Carmel, one or the other. Booking information. We're aiming for a minimum of 20 pilgrims. All of those prices are based on at least 20 people going. I think we can achieve that. That's 10 couples. Now, Amy and I are going. That's 9 more couples. We're going to try and hold the maximum to 36. First come, first serve. After 36, it's a wait list because some people might drop out. If we have just a small amount over 36, we'll talk to to gate 1 to see what we can maybe do, but I can't make any promises. We'll certainly try, because there's nothing magic about 36. It's just a number we've fixed on because this church hasn't engaged in a trip like this for 15, 20 years. And we don't want to overstretch ourselves. Plus, 36 is a good number to get on and off a coach and in and out of places. I can't remember how many the coach holds, maybe 50. But then then you filled it up and it takes forever to get off and forever to get on, and forever to get in somewhere, forever to get through the restrooms. 36 is a sort of good number. But as I said, if we're just a few more, we'll see what we can do. But first come, first serve. You can book online or by phone. Once all our plans are processed, we'll get a website to go to or a phone number to call. You go to the website, it takes you to our page on the website. You read the terms and conditions, you fill in the stuff, you give them your credit card, you're booked. If you don't like doing that online, there's a telephone number you can call, you give them our unique church code. They say, oh, St. Armand's Key Lutheran Church. Oh, you're going with Ken Blythe. And then when they stop laughing, they'll take all your information, give you the terms and conditions over the phone, and then they'll take your credit card information and you'll be booked. $300 deposit. The deposit has to be paid by credit card. That secures your place if you're the first 36. If you're like me, you really should be making some payments here and there to pay it down, but you don't have to pay the rest, but it has to be paid in full, no less than 90 days prior to departure. Because believe it or not, that's when the entire airfare is paid for by gate 1. Group travel on airlines require that you pay in full 90 days before. That's why my pilgrimage in 2022 was cancelled, even though subsequently Israel opened up. At the time, my group was paying the airfare for 30 odd people. They couldn't take the chance that Israel wouldn't open in time, and so they pulled the plug because it was 90 days out. you will receive a 5% discount on those costs. Okay, you'll receive a 5% discount if you pay the remainder of your balance by check. And you can do that online and by telephone by just reading them your routing number. You know, all it means is, I guess that probably applies to debit cards too. Their point is don't pay by credit card, because that $5 break they're giving you, that's the $5 they've got to give to the credit card company. So your deposit is paid by credit card. They want that paper trail on their books, but the rest of it, if you call them up or go online and do sort of an e-check, you know, routing number, account number, amount, you get 5% taken off those amounts, and that adds up. Yes.
The number of people, is school the only one on the bus?
Yes, good question. Are we the only people on the bus? Yes. If we can get at least 20 people, we get the bus to ourselves. Yes, and another slide, I'm going to strongly encourage you to at least explore. I can't say you have to. I can't even say they're the best. Each time I take the travel insurance through Gate One. There's some advantages to that. You know, I think there's one that if you do it while you're booking, it covers pre-existing conditions, that kind of stuff. Plus, remember what I said about Gate One, doing your own flight arrangements through them, so you know who to go to. I like that, even if it's a problem, like a medical problem. I'm calling Gate One. If it's a connecting flight issue, I call Gate One. If it's a legal issue, Gate One. If I have trouble with the airlines, Gate One. If I need to make an insurance claim, Gate One. I kind of like that seamlessness, but you don't have to do that. But I strongly advise you to take out travel insurance. And Gate One's travel insurance also includes things like repatriation. You know, check it out. I'm not saying you have to. I'm just saying at least explore it. The top right is a synagogue at Khorasan, and the bottom right picture is the amphitheater at Caesarea Maritima. Okay. Cancellation penalty. Oh, photograph top right. That is the boat that you'll be on going across the Sea of Galilee. The Galilean hills are behind there. Nice little boat. Bottom, that's another photograph. Don't know why I did two. That's another photograph of the synagogue at Capernaum. What is the cancellation penalty? If you cancel 150 to 91 days, you lose your $300 per person. That was your deposit. 91 to 61, you lose 50% of the land and 100% of the air. Because remember I said, Gate One has to pay for the air in its entirety, at least 90 days before. 60 to 31 days, 75% of the land, 100% there. You see, they've got more flexibility with the land part. They're just talking to hotels and freeing up rooms that the hotel can now resell. But the air is the bugger. 30 days or less, or a no-show, you lose 100% of the land and 100% of the air. That's another reason why you should take out travel insurance, because you'll be on the hook for those costs, but you'll get it back from the insurance.
Oh, okay.
Questions on cancellation? Yes.
Does Gate One local office here?
No, they don't. Online, and then they have representatives like Roberta lives on that other coast of Florida. But no, I don't believe they don't have offices. Now, that's not to say they don't have an office somewhere in Florida, and I can certainly ask Roberta about that. But the method of booking and making payments, it's a choice, your choice. And I think you can move between online and by phone. Bits and pieces. The top, Tel Megiddo. This is the way you step down into the tunnels and into the water supply of the city. Bottom right is the upper room, traditional site in Jerusalem, where Christ celebrated the Last Supper. Bits and pieces. Book early, first come, first served. Pay balance by check, 5% discount, and check the terms and conditions. Okay, nobody ever does that. The old joke online is Bilbo Baggins is the only person that ever checked the terms and conditions. If you ever see The Hobbit, he reads the fine print the dwarves give him. Yeah, he's the only person in history that read all the terms and conditions. Read them, please. I don't want any nasty surprises for you. Seriously consider the travel insurance available through Gate 1. And you can do that as you book. Avoid the single supplement by finding an SAKLC travel buddy will help. Get in shape. No, it doesn't mean you have to lose weight. Doesn't mean you have to bench press 3 times your body weight. Walk. We are going to walk 5+ miles every day. It's going to be stop-start. It's going to be interspersed with bus rides. There's almost always something to lean on or something to sit on in the site when you get there. But it's going to be a lot of walking. But no, you don't have to hit the gym. Just walk. Walk the dog. Walk the beach. Walk at the gym. Or if you want an air-conditioned walk, go to UTC. Go to UTC and walk around it in the air conditioning and stop for a coffee every so often. But just get used to walking. It's a lot of walking. There's no way around it. You're in the old city, Jerusalem, you know, thousands of years old. The bus can't drop you 2 feet from the site. You know, the bus stops. It's an archaeological site. You walk from the bus to the site. It's gravel or it's uneven surfaces. You do not have to be Superman. You do not have to be in the best shape of your life, but just be able to walk 5 miles a day, stop, start, with lots of stops and lots of leaning, lots of grabbing a quick seat, even if it's just one cheek. Consider purchasing additional memory cards, batteries, and a battery pack. I will dive deeper into this when we get to the deep dive, but I'm just planting seeds now. Some of the bits and pieces are important to know now. Some of them are just seed planting. You will take a lot of photographs. Organize your camera or your cell phone. Get those plenty of space in the memory. Organize your albums so you're not having to do that at the site. When you get back on the bus, you can move those 3,000 photos you took at site 1 into the album that says site 1, you know, that kind of stuff. And a battery pack, you know, those little charger packs. It's good to have one, just in case, you know, if you don't have the greatest battery in your cell phone, you know, you can plug it in when you get back to the hotel, but consider having a little battery backup while we're on the road, especially if it's not the best of batteries in your device. You really don't want to run out of battery or memory when it's a memory you want to preserve. Open mind, guard lips. Allow this trip to change you. It might not profoundly, you know, your preconceived ideas, even with an open mind, may be proven to be correct. I'm not saying you're wrong. You might be exactly right, and this trip might prove to you that you're exactly right. But be open-minded enough to realize that it might change your mind and your perspective on things. But the Holy Spirit will only be able to break through if your mind is not tightly closed against it. Guard your lips. You never know who you're around. Don't assume that because you're in Bethlehem, everyone around you is Palestinian. Don't assume because you're in the hotel in Jerusalem, everyone around you is a Jew. Don't speak ill of any group, and you'll be okay. And what is more, you'll be a nice person. I'm not telling you you have to edit your thoughts. I'm not telling you you're wrong. I'm not telling you you don't have a God-given right as an American to speak your mind. I'm just saying, wait till you get back to America. Don't offend people over there. You know, you would not want a visitor to offend you here. Don't be the one that offends them there. So just be cautious in how you speak of people. For the love of Pete, you're all Christians. We should be cautious about that anyway. Love your neighbor as yourself, some wise person once said. Be positive, be adaptable, be adventurous. Something will go wrong. Okay, it just will. We're humans interacting with other humans and interacting with machinery. I work on the assumption something's going to be wrong. Don't let one or two things ruin your pilgrimage. And don't ruin other people's pilgrimages by whining about the one or two things that go wrong. As a friend of mine would put it, suck it up, cupcake. Okay, you know? Be positive. If you want to rant and rave, do so with your spouse or your roommate in the privacy of your own room. But we're going halfway around the world. Something won't work out the way you want it, or the way we all want it. We're going to keep going. And as the woman said to a screaming kid at Six Flags Great America at Gurney some 25 years ago, kid, you're going to have a good time whether you like it or not. Okay, be positive, adaptable, adventurous. Be aware that the itinerary might change, not because Gate 1 wants to make an extra buck or because I misinterpreted something. It may change because one day one of our guides got a call to say Mountain of Olives is a huge traffic jam. You can't move up here for hours. Mountain of Olives moved to another day. Sorry if you had your hopes up it would be that day, but we're not going to sit for 5 or 6 hours in a traffic jam that we know exists just so you can say, okay, it happened on day 7. Be adaptable. Gate 1 and our guides are connected to the intelligence services in the state of Israel. If we get told don't go somewhere, we're not going there. This isn't America where we go, you can't tell me I can't go there. This is Israel. And the Israeli Defense Force, the IDF, and their police will say, I'm sorry, I don't care whether you want to go there. You're not going there. We're not risking our lives to get you out of there just because you're bullheaded enough to want to go there. Be adaptable. Okay. Buy walking shoes and break them in before departure. Number of people I've met on the plane and I've said, why are you wearing your walking shoes? Well, I'm still breaking them in. On the plane, if you're still breaking them in on the plane, you're too late. You know. Do a little reading in advance and afterwards. I'll provide recommendations. No, I don't need you to read 20 textbooks before we go, but you might want to dip into some books, some travel guides, watch some videos I recommend. And when you come back, you might want to dive deeper into the 1 or 2 places that just blew your mind. And if you do that reading, a little bit of reading and research on your own about whatever has excited you, it'll cement itself in your mind even more powerfully than simply just coming back and contemplating it. Consider bringing your own wired earbuds for use with the Whisper device. Got that covered? Download WhatsApp, even if only for use on this pilgrimage. We'll use WhatsApp to keep in touch with each other. No, I don't assume that everyone has a cellular signal and can get Wi-Fi wherever they are, signal wherever they are. No, I don't assume that. Those of you who do, that's great. I can always zap something out or you can zap something into me. But when you get back to the hotel, your phone locks onto the Wi-Fi in the hotel, and WhatsApp is invaluable for me doing little reminders like, tomorrow we're going to Bethlehem. You'll need your passport. Tomorrow we're going to the Sea of Galilee. We're going to Yardenit, to the Jordan. Bring your swimming gear and your water shoes. Those little reminders, or for the first couple of days, me just sending you a text at night that says, remember, and I'm making this up for illustrative purposes, although it'll probably be what happens. Remember, guys, tomorrow, 7:30 for breakfast, 8:30 on the bus. That sort of stuff. Also, the most invaluable photographs are the ones with you in it, not the ones of sites. You can get better photos from Google, but photos that you're in. That means it will likely be a photo, you know, I can look over and say, wow, We're on the top of Masada, and Doug looks like Lawrence of Arabia, looking out over the Roman fortifications below. And I'll snap a photo of Doug until he gets creeped out by it, you know. And I'll send Doug the photo, because that photo I take of Doug looking out over the Judean wilderness is better than any other photograph out there, because Doug's in it. And on WhatsApp, you can do that. You can look around and say, oh, and then share it on WhatsApp, and someone can download it from there. Those are invaluable photographs. You can't take them yourself. They're better even than selfies. And when I was on the pilgrimage in February, I took about 4 or 5 photos from me, and then a bunch others that I don't count of other people. And then I put them on WhatsApp. And I have photographs of a guy leaning against the Wailing Wall in prayer. He's not going to get that from anywhere else. You know, that kind of thing. WhatsApp will be invaluable, even if you've never had it before, even if you delete it forever after we get back or when we leave, very valuable. Check the voltage requirements of devices and buy adapters or converters. Israel has the 2 or 3 round prongs, not the flat ones that we have, and they have a 220 power supply. They're like the Brits. The electricity comes out of the wall at 220. Don't mess with 220s. Okay, don't mess with them. But most of the electronic devices now can take 110 or 220. Companies don't want to be making one device for that market and one device for that. It's a worldwide market now. And to be honest, most of our devices only take 9 volts or 25 volts anyway. This laptop only takes 45. It doesn't need 220 coming out of a wall or 110. That box down there on my power cord takes the 110 from the wall and bumps it down to 45. And my cell phone plugs into the wall, and mine's a little different. It takes a 25 volt supply because it does a fast charge. It doesn't take 110. So your devices will tell you if they're okay for 110, 220. And I'll dive deep again in the future, but I'm planting seeds. When you buy an adapter has no clever circuitry in it. It just takes your 2 or 3 American slots, and out the other end produces the 2 or the 3 Israeli round ones. And that's all you need. I've got an adapter I take everywhere with me. I plug it into that and plug it into the wall in Israel, and I've got 3 UBS ports there. I'm golden. And those 2 adapters I take with me, Amazon, 2 for $7. You probably don't need a converter. You probably don't need a converter that'll take the 220 and bump it down to something. Save a bunch of money. Create a packing list and do so strategically and intelligently. Work on it, and work on it based on the climate. And lastly, obey your doctor's orders, fill prescriptions, and prepare your medical devices. My CPAP machine will be in my little bag, good to go, not counted as part of any of my carry-ons, that kind of stuff. But if your doctor tells you, you know, when you fly, you should really wear compression socks, and you go, I only fly between here and Indiana. Well, it's a longer flight to Israel. Wear the compression socks your doctor tells you. Whatever your doctor tells you that you may have ignored in normal travels, this is farther and longer. Obey doctor's orders. Take lots of prescription medications with you. Prepare any of your medical devices to travel. Any questions on bits and pieces? We're at the end, by the way. Remember, this is a spiritual renewal and deep learning as SAKLC walks with Jesus. Photograph to the left is the tomb of Jesus. That simple cave is in the middle of that edicule. That edicule is in one wing of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Top right, that's the cave. Take away all that lovely stonework. That's a cave. That's the cave underneath the Church of the Nativity. This is the traditional site of Jesus' burial. In the bottom right-hand corner is Yarden Eat. That's where we'll go in the River Jordan to renew our baptismal vows. Any questions on the presentation? I was only 15 minutes over, and for me, that's practically on time. I believe it is. I believe it is. For reasons that were explained in the previous videos. But in short, yep, when Constantine's mother in the year 345-ish went over to the Holy Land after she converted to Christianity, she said to the locals, where did they crucify Jesus? And all the locals said, on the rock underneath that pagan temple the bloody Romans built to keep us away from it. And she had the temple destroyed and Church of the Holy Sepulchre built around it. Where was Jesus? All of this stuff, can you guarantee it? No, till an angel tells us. But from the mid 300s, all of the locals identified those sites to St. Helena. Yes.
Times that you and Amy did.
Amy hasn't been there at all. I've been there twice. I'll go again in February. So by the time we leave together, it'll be my 4th pilgrimage. By the time I get back, I'll have it for 4 pilgrimages. Yes, sir.
When actually will it open up?
Shortly. I hope that's vague enough, but soon. Our contract is being double checked by Gate 1. They're checking Roberta's work. When they certify that, they'll call me. They'll certify some stuff with me, and then they'll activate our code, which will allow us access to the website, or is what we'll quote on the telephone call. But remember, and this is a good reminder, thank you for this, lad. Remember, at the back of the hall there is a table. The water is on it. At the right-hand corner, my right hand, there's a clipboard. If you would like a copy of this PowerPoint presentation, put your name, telephone number, and email address down and make some kind of mark in the PowerPoint column. Even if you don't want the PowerPoint presentation, if you want to be put on the email list for the Holy Land, if you're in the room, fill that form in. If you're online, send me an email, pastor@saklc.com. If you forget that, call the office, they'll give it to you. It's also in the worship bulletin. I think it's also on Connections. You'll find it. And I'll create an email list, and as updates come in, I can update you that way. And that's also where you'll get an email that says registration open, and you can, and the link or the telephone number. And that way, the people that have expressed an interest, none of you have paid a deposit, none of you got skin in the game. Some of you are here for other reasons tonight. That's great. I invited you for those other reasons. But if you want on that mailing list, that's the best way to do it. And then you're up to date with all of the information. And when the starter pistol goes off, you'll know it right away. Yes. How many people in the room have been to Israel before? 3. Any last questions? Okay. Tonight's presentation will make its way, the recording of it will make its way onto the website in the next handful of days. And if you want to watch it again, you can. And if you have friends at SAKLC that you would like to have them watch it, you can zap them the link, or just tell them go on the website, Christian Education, and find the recordings. Thank you for your attention. God bless. See you in worship.